welcome back to another Right On. And so you might have noticed in some of these that I speak slow. I can't read my writing. I mean, a lot of this is just chicken scratch. I don't know what's going on. I had a job at a brewery, and people would be like, well, I want a flight. They would say, I want a flight. So you'd write down 8 different beers of a flight, and I'd write them down, and I'd be like, oh, yes, okay, I'll go get your flight of beers. I'd look at what I wrote down and be like, what the hell is this? What? Who wrote this? Oh, I did, and I can't even read it. Because my writing it depends on the mood I'm in as well. If I'm like having a good writing session, everything is legible. It's marvelous. That was Max's phone. But we're gonna magically open up the book today and give you some insight to whatever this is. Oh goodness. What I'm noticing in this series is that it's not just like I open it up and, yes, I'm going to read it. It's like I open it up and I'm like, I don't even know where we're at all. Let me see if what the heck is going on? Okay. Oh, I know what this is. Okay, I'll read the whole thing. In 1933, my great-grandmother came to America straight out of Sweden, and she worked at a school for Native American youth as the school nurse, treating whatever cuts, bruises, or diseases that reached the students within the confines of the building. In 1944, my grandmother worked as a registered nurse in blank, touring to blank. I'm sure I wrote this down when I typed it out. Inpatient acute care, 1944 to 49. And in the 90s, on Take Your Daughter to Work Day, my mother frequently brought my sister and I to the hospital she worked as a clinical oncology cancer nurse specialist. While my sister played with the empty manila folders pretending to do filings, I spent time talking to some of the patients, passing by, walking laps between chemo, treatments, checkups, and whatever one does during the days of inpatient existence. And as a 9-year-old face-to-face with people face-to-face with their own mortality, I wanted to make sure I asked them the most important questions I could, because Take Your Daughter to Work Day was only once a year. Oh man, I have a feeling this one's gonna get emotional. Questions like, tell me exactly, what is your favorite color? Between spaghetti and cereal, what would you choose? Go. And for those brief moments, maybe we forgot the walls were horribly colored, egg white and burnt orange, and the innocent and the incessant clanging of metal on metal from medical equipment bellowing on wheels in the halls wasn't ticking toward a future forlorn. It wasn't a clock ticking toward a future forlorn. And the next breath wasn't something to think about or work for. We forgot we were in a hospital. And then my mom couldn't tell you anything. And then my mom couldn't tell you anything about the next generation of cancer care. By then, my mother couldn't tell you anything about the next generation of cancer care, but she could tell you she was going to be there. Our hearts are always going to be there. That's why you're here. I guess I'll read the rest of this because I kind of dig this. We give what we know we have, compassion. And we give what we don't know, how much left we have, time. And myself, as a special ed paraprofessional, I've never met a parent that didn't want better for their child than they had. And as the great-grandson, grandson, and son of a legacy of nurses, I've never met a medical worker who didn't want better for their patients leaving them when they entered the hospital. It is our inherent nature to add value to others, and even though some know what to do and don't do what they know, I believe it is our... And then I got like a arrow that goes off somewhere. My goodness, Toussaint. Lord, this thing is so... Tonight we are doing what we know so we can assist those to do what they can't. The people in the lab, the infamous versatiles who go bench to bedside and back to bench, reaching into the unknown to create, to discover, to generate, to bring forward answers to questions that have not been asked yet and to treat conditions that are unpredictable. 50 years ago, you had around a 3% chance of surviving leukemia. Today, it is 95 to 97%. That's the difference. The parallel is medical researchers would have told you the same thing then as they would have now, is at the cutting edge. The Ferris Buellers of medical research. And at the Masonic, no miracles as human, I don't know what that was, we're working on it. And by working, they mean operating in a paradox of domesticated risk-taking based on some backbone of not just good data, but good quality data. Choreographing steps between added time and an enhanced death. It's not easy. I just can't imagine blank walked into a lab on a Thursday and thought, these people are the Ferris Buellers of medicine. They're cool with the field, but have always had their own thing going on. And that's why you're here, to help. And you already know that. I just prepared a fancy way of telling you in case you forgot. However, in case you aren't already up on the accolades and distinction of the Masonic Children's Hospital. So this whole piece, one, it's fragmented as AF. So there's another thing I wrote here as well. But this piece, I was hired to write for the Children's Hospital in 2017, I believe, for Winefest. Now, Winefest, there's a lot of people that get into a giant room, and a lot of those people have a lot of money, and then they do a auction. And so they wanted me to kind of do this this piece, before they started. And for me, my great-grandmother, who was from Sweden, was a nurse. My grandmother, who is from, I believe, I think it's Richfield. She's from Minnesota, was a nurse. She was a nurse in detox. She saw humans on their worst days of their lives, worst years of their lives. And then my mother, who was a clinical cancer nurse specialist, saw people at the potential precipice of their life. And so the poem they wanted me to write was about cutting edge, cancer research. And so what I wrote about was the continual compassion that nurses show, there's a lot of doctors there, but was the continual compassion that nurses show in and outside of the hospital for people, and what it takes to continue that spirit. Now, this is really fragmented, and you're probably like, what the hell did he just read? But what had happened was a lot of this got chopped up and then put it into, typed into a Word document. But the core of this is me sitting in a hospital with my sister on Take Your Daughter to Work Day, and talking to people that have cancer. And they don't have a lot of people to talk to, except for the nurses and the staff. And the doctors are running all over the place, and you're just sitting there as a homie to talk to. So that was a phenomenal, humbling, gratitude-filled experience. And it also destigmatizes, people going to hospitals and whatnot. And so that was what that was, and that doesn't really have a name. And I'd have to rewrite it because I think the homies might have bought the rights to it, but I'm not quite sure. But that is it's called Next Gen, actually. It's called Next Gen. So that was that piece, and I hope you dug it and got some information out of it. So yeah, and not all writing is linear. It is not.